Alright, in the last video we covered how to handle a social distancing race or a chip start race with a chip finish. In this video we're going to cover how to handle timing a race like that if you have no reader at the start or the finish. Maybe your race is small enough where you can manually put the times in at the start and at the finish. So it's easier to do manual timing at the start if you're starting one person at a time, but it's not a big deal if you're starting teams at a time or small groups or whatever. So what we're going to do is this is just a couple minutes later after the last video. I just reset the race back to 0 is all I've done. I'm just going to disconnect the reader. So we have no reader hooked up at all. Now this is simply the laptop or my phone charger just because it's about to die, and I've got the TV hookup there. So I'm not sure what happens. I don't think the TV is going to work here with manual times, but let's just see what happens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to the RFID Readers tab. We're going to simulate manually captured chip start times. I do have the captured chip start time box selected. Let me close out the display, bring it back up. Make sure, yep, so it still shows 0. So I'm going to drag this over again. You see it coming across. So drag it most of the way, double click, and now it's docked to full screen. So let's see what happens. So again, got no readers hooked up. That 0 represents the software recognizes that the reader is disconnected. So the red says, hey, you've dropped a reader. So that's why that's red. But let's go ahead and start both races at the same time. 1, 2, 3, go. And so now, since I have the capture chip start box selected, let's imagine we're going to start one person at a time. And I'm going to use the bib numbers that are in the men's race here. So if it's one person at a time, it's real easy. You can just type in 2, 0, and then you can say, all right, number 20, on your mark, get set, go. And when you hit the enter key, that's all it is, hit the enter key, it will take that time or that enter key as when he started, okay? So one person at a time is easy. So now let's do 21. All right, 21, on your mark, get set, go, enter key. 22, on your mark, get set, go, enter key. And what's happening is it's simply updating their chip start time based on when you press the enter key. So manually timing a chip start, if it's one person at a time, easy. No big deal. All right, well, let's say it's a team at a time or a wave of people at a time. Well, if it's a cross-country meet and you're small enough where you're not doing chip timing, then hopefully you're starting 15 to 20, maybe 30 people at a time. If it's more, it's still doable. It just may take more effort on your part. Really, it's not much more effort. I'll just show you what to do. So what I would do is, if I did not have a chip start system to capture the start times, I would go to View Reports, click on bib number sheet, and here the software gives you a report that is typically used to record finishers' bib numbers in order. Now, on the notes field, that's only used if you wanted to say, like, hey, is this second time they came through or whatever. Most people don't write any notes, just simply bib numbers in order. Well, you can do the same thing at the starting line, where how in track meets, indoor and outdoor, the athletes have to check in to receive their bib number, okay, before the meet. So, typically before the 5K, for example, they'll be like, hey, men's 5K, this is your first check-in. I don't remember what they say. It's been a long time since I ran in college, but, they give like 2 or 3 notices. This is your final call for the men's 5K or whatever, right? So go get your bib number. And so you can do the same thing before each wave starts, is those athletes can check in. Now, if you already know who's going to start in which wave, you can actually preset people's chip start times before the race even begins. But let's imagine that you're in a situation where you need to enter people's start times and you're not sure who's going to start and when. So what you would do is I would use the notes field to indicate, hey, this wave started at 8 o'clock sharp, and you write down the bib numbers that checked in for that wave, okay? And so even if you didn't know when they started, when that wave begins, hopefully you've got a watch or a phone that's, its clock is synced up with the finish line, the Windows clock there. So I have a stopwatch or a phone or something that's synced up. And what I would do is, if you're going to start one wave at a time, is I would wait for a round minute. Let's say you're going to start at 4:51 exactly. So you'd say, all right, guys, ready? 5, 4, 3, and count them down. And that way you just write in the notes field over here. Let me find my mouse. There it is. You would simply write 4:51, and then all the bib numbers that started at 4:51. Okay, and let's say you're going to start the next wave at 4:55, and you're going to start 20 people at a time. Well, starting at position 20, you would write 4:55 right here, and then all the bib numbers that started with that wave. Okay, so that's one way you could track the exact time of when each wave started manually. Now, of course, your next question is, well, how do I put those in manually? On the clock screen, you have two options. So if you double click on someone's name, now by the way, you can sort any of these by name or by bib number or whatever. So I'm going to sort this ascending by bib number. And so I'm going to go ahead and double click on, let's say number 37 started at 4:50 exactly. So I'm going to double click on 37, and I can change this to say, it's going to default to the gun time. So I'm going to say, 4:50 and 0 seconds. I press the enter key. Now it shows he started 2 minutes and 7 seconds after the race started. So that's one way to do it, is just double click, and that would let you set the actual time. Now, if you say, well, what if I don't know the exact time? I just know that they started, remember earlier on the previous video, I had a screen that showed how long it's been since the last person started. You could have it to where hey, this person started 5 minutes after the gun time. So you can actually switch this from a date time entry to a minute, second, hour entry. Oops, I missed it. So you can say, well, he started 5 minutes after the gun started. So I'm going to do 05, press the enter key, and he started exactly 5 minutes after the gun started. And maybe the next person started 6 minutes after the gun started. You can do 06, enter key. So it's pretty easy to manually double click, put a time in, hit enter, double click, put a time in. Now you can do this if you're on the finish line computer. You can do this while people are finishing. No big deal. All that matters is before you print results, you get their time in there. So that's all that matters. The chip finish system, that should be an automatic thing. No big deal. Now, of course, if you have no chip system at all and you're manually capturing times there too, then that's still easy. When you see a finisher come in, now I'm going to go ahead and let's imagine we're at the finish line, so I'm not capturing chip starts there. I'm going to go ahead and hit the space bar. Every time someone finishes, you're hitting the space bar. That's all you're doing. Okay, so let's imagine number 20 was the first finisher. You type in 20, press enter, and it fills in the top time. Now, there are ways you can double click, manually put a bib number and a time there. If you're used to, like, I think it's web score, there's different ways. Some people say, well, when I put a bib number and press enter, maybe I want it to manually capture a time as I'm entering that bib number. So instead of putting 24 here, maybe I want to capture a new time and put 24. There's ways you can do that. The software makes it all easy. But your typical format is when you press the enter key, it fills in the top time. Okay. Okay. I'm getting sidetracked. But the point is, while you're timing the race, you can still, when there's breaks in the action, if you've got that printout for that sheet written out with all the bib numbers and times, you can come over here and start manually putting times in. So again, it's data entry, but it's easy if you've got a small race and you've got plenty of gap between finishers, and it's kind of low key event. It's very doable. So you can definitely have a cross country meet or a fall race, even if you have no RFID equipment, where you're still starting people socially distanced. So that'll conclude this video. I could go over there and import these chip start times and do the timing over there, but I'm not going to. I just want to show you in this video all the methods you have at your disposal here to manually put people's times in and to manually time the race. So if it's a small enough race, you can still do it even if they want to be social distancing, in their format. So, all right. Hope this video was helpful to you. We'll do another video covering maybe having a start and finish line at the same location and where people are starting and finishing at the same time.